speaking of our entire team, one of the very original people that helped me put all this together, because it was 6 months worth of research and then a year worth of writing, was the very talented Ryan Doolittle. Ryan Doolittle, when I first met him, he was, and I guess still is, a writer, a wonderful writer, an actor, and a comedic actor to boot. So he's actually a really funny guy and a genuinely curious individual who really just by his nature never stops learning and diving into things that he's interested in. So over a decade ago, Ryan Doolittle helped me research and ultimately organize You Can Retire Sooner Than You Think. So he has been part of the Retire Sooner team from really the very, very beginning. So I'm so happy to have him here on the Retire Sooner podcast to talk about his new podcast called Happiest Retirees. Ryan Doolittle, welcome to the Retire Sooner podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, Wes. I'm really excited to be here. And speaking of learning, I just want to thank you for teaching me what the word quintile means.
Quintile. It's one of that along with basis points. Those two very important words in both statistics and financial planning.
Very much. Every time I hear the word basis points on the news now, I think of you.
I always think of it as a great name for a Wall Street bar. Hey guys, we're going down to basis points. Of course, basis points. For those who don't know basis points, of course, they're just the fractions of a percent, right? 100 basis points is just 1%.
But if you use basis points, you get to sound smarter than saying it another way.
It does sound smarter. I think it's I'd much rather say percent, but it does sound a little smarter for basis points. So give us an overview of the show. Explain your mission for Happiest Retiree Podcast.
Well, okay. So after so many hours spent listening to you, speaking to the best and the brightest, the retirement gurus, I just thought, well, it might be of value to talk to the actual people on the ground, the actual happy retirees, to get their story. And so that's what this has become. Is the mission for the Happiest Retirees podcast is to inspire 1 million families to find happiness in retirement. And we're getting the stories straight from the source, straight from the happy people.
So, what was the naming of the podcast like? Did you go through a bunch of? I remember when you first pitched me, I thought it was so clever, and I hope it doesn't get lost, of course, in the podcast. But you had at one point said, "I want to be the core pursuit finder," right? So core pursuits, hobbies on steroids, and Ryan Doolittle. The thought of him looking like Carmen Sandiego running around, or Sherlock Holmes with a magnifying glass and a funny little hat, which you would probably have in your closet ready to go as a prop for something. I love that idea. Oh, he's the core pursuit finder. He's going to go find people that are doing a bunch of new things. What were some of the names you were thinking of?
Yeah, I was about 5 seconds from hitting click on buying the Sherlock Holmes outfit. Because I thought I was so clever. I thought the core pursuit finder, I'm out there like I'm a detective. I'm hunting for these happy retirees and finding what these core pursuits are. It ended up changing to Happiest Retirees. We just thought that, was a way to bring more people into the circle and get the full story, the full 3-dimensional journey.
Happiest retiree or happy retiree hunter sounds. They could also be like one of those serial killer podcasts.
Yeah, we don't want to actually hunt the retirees down. We want them to remain living and being happy. Yeah, so that would have been a little confusing.
So Ryan, the mission for the Happiest Retirees podcast is to inspire 1 million families to find happiness in retirement.
Correct. Right. If we can do that, we'll know we've been successful. I just felt like, as kids, we're all asked, what we want to be when we grow up. And that makes it seem finite, like that's it. But we, on the Happiest Retirees podcast, we refocus this lens. Now that you're grown up, what do you want to do? because life changes so much when you leave this career. In a way, you have so many more opportunities, and now you might actually be able to do what you want.
All right, you're talking to happy retirees. What are these like celebrity guests that you're having on the show? Or are they totally normal people? How do you know if they're happy retirees? Like, why are we listening to these people? Who and how are you finding them?
Well, we have a minimum of, you have to have won 2 Academy Awards to be on the show.
It's a good entry point.
Yeah. So we're going straight. I mean, the search process could be defined as anything and everything from Googling to using Chat GPT, to word of mouth. We're finding anyone who knows a happy retiree, and then we're evaluating if their story fits our criteria. And I would say our criteria is, are they truly happy? Are they living the life with multiple core pursuits? Some of them have rebranded themselves after retiring. Some of them were already happy. What were they looking for? How did they find it? And where has it led them? Anyone that can inspire other people to find happiness in retirement, that's who we're looking for.
All right, so your goal then for the audience is for them to walk away with some practical retiree habits from people who've either transformed themselves, or maybe they weren't happy and then they became a happy retiree, or they didn't have core pursuits and now they have a whole bunch of core pursuits.
Yeah, I'd say our first goal is to inspire people to think, wow, that person did it, and that means I can do it. And then the second part of that is to get some practical examples of things they could do. Maybe they realize, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to play tennis 4 days a week and I never did. I mean, that's something that anyone could pull off. Other people, I've always wanted to hang glide naked. I mean, that's not right. I've always wanted to hang glide and I've never done it. I'm not verifying that hang gliding is safe or it isn't. I'm just trying to say they're getting some examples of these people who said, I've always wanted to do this and I never did it, and I can do it.
All right. So what's your favorite or most surprising thing you've learned about happy retirees so far? What are they doing so different?
I was very surprised to find out that pickleball was the most popular sport, and that it was invented in 1965 on Bainbridge Island, which I've been to.
I don't even know if I realized it was that far back in the past.
I thought it was a brand new sport. I never saw courts when I was younger.
And why are you saying you're saying that's the number one happy retiree sport?
Yeah, pickleball is the number one sport for retirees. And I think it has something to do with you get the joy of tennis without the agony of knee pain.
Okay. And you still get to play with multiple people, and it's fun and social. And
Exactly.
it's less running around. So I think people can literally drink beer while they're playing beer while they're playing pickleball. I think that's part of it. I think
adding, if any sport where you can add beer definitely adds players.
Yeah, it's like softball. I remember growing up, my dad, once a year, we'd had a big softball party. And I was still a kid. I was still like 10 to maybe 14. And I'm looking back on it. They got so excited about softball out in this kind of oddly shaped field. So it wasn't like a great field for softball, but it was in like our horse pasture. So I remember we'd have to clean it up a little bit before we'd have softball games. But I think looking back on it is that all the parents were drinking. It was like they were there. It's I guess a beer league softball, and I guess that maybe that's part of it. All right, so what else do you know about these happy retirees?
Well, some of the statistics are surprising. People who drive BMWs are statistically less happy, which was eye-opening. I don't know that it specifically has to do with the actual car, but I think some people pick that car because they want to show it off, and that's not really a good way to go about your life.
Okay.
The happiest retirees average 3.6 core pursuits. And now you mentioned a core pursuit is like a hobby on steroids, something that can get you out of bed in the morning. The unhappiest ones average about 1.9. So the more, the better. And another interesting fact was that the happiest retirees, their alcoholic beverage of choice is either white wine or gin.
All
So
right.
the
Okay.
clear.
So speaking of the beer leagues, it's not beer, it's white wine and gin.
Yeah, the Chardonnay softball leagues.
So what do you think listeners will get out of the podcast?
I think they're going to get a chance to hear from people who are either in the same situation they're in now or the one they're going to be in within a few years or maybe even further down the road, but they know they want to get there. And this is a way to listen and find out some ideas for how to go, what direction to take, what steps, what the first step was, because I think some people get overwhelmed and they think, well, I just can't do it. And if they can just take that first step like these people do, they can get there. They can be happy retirees. So, you asked, do I really think there's anything that the listeners can learn from these happy retirees? And I really do. There's a great quote from Margaret Mead. She was an anthropologist. And she said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed individuals can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. I know for myself, I read over that quote quite often because it sort of gets me back on track when I'm feeling a little discouraged. But I think it really applies to this situation because happy retirees, you listening, you are important and you can do this.
All right. So you've already released now several episodes. I think you've released 3 episodes, and I know that you have several more in the work. So you're already doing this. What are some of the themes you've noticed from some of your guests so far?
So yeah, I'm noticing some themes, and it's very much in line with some of the themes from the book. The 5 lifestyle habits that happy retirees tend to have. They focus on marriage, family, faith, health, and as we talked about before, core pursuits. So those are really key categories that need to be in check to keep the happiness levels high.
So let me ask about some of those lifestyle habits. When you say marriage and you say faith, is this that the happy retirees have to be married? Do they have to be faithful in some way, meaning they're going to go to church? What do those look like?
Oh, no, I meant Faith Hill, the musician. Well, the happiest retirees tend to be married. Now, that's not to say you have to be married to be happy. And in fact, it's not even statistically so bad to be in your second marriage. We call that sort of the marriage mulligan. If you've been married 8 times, that's not really a good sign.
That's over par. Talk about that's over par.
Exactly. I think you need to, at that point, turn the mirror to yourself and think, maybe I'm the problem. But now, secondly, family. Our research shows that happy retirees live near at least half of their adult children. Now, we say near because I think that's a very important word. You don't want to live in the same house, as I think probably most of us would realize that doesn't usually go very well. The next, faith, would be a lot of these retirees, they have a faith in some religious or spiritual area, and that is also mixed with the community that going to church services and can lead to. A lot of times that'll also lead to volunteering, which is also a very big core pursuit, a very popular core pursuit for the happy retirees. Health, I think, is kind of self-explanatory because if you're not healthy, you don't have much of a chance to be happy. So you have to take care of yourself, eat right, drink right, and exercise.
Wait, did you say eat right and drink right? Is that meaning that you should only be drinking gin and white wine?
Exactly.
Or is it okay to be in the softball beer league?
I will also allow water. That's also okay. Water, white wine, and gin in moderation. And then the final category, core pursuits, we sort of got into. You need to average around 3.6. You need to find something that you're passionate about, and you need to do it. And I think once you find the thing you really like, it's not going to be that hard to get yourself to do it.
So who's the audience, Ryan? Who do you hope listens to this show?
Well, in addition to saying I hope everyone does, I think specifically,
I mean, million's a big goal, buddy. I mean, that's a million's a lot.
that's right. That's right. It's a big goal, but I think it's a reachable goal. I want people who are thinking about retiring and wondering if they can be happy, what they'll do. I want those people to listen to this and get on track and start the journey of finding happiness. It's a major transition. We don't realize that when we have a career, that's becomes a big part of our identity. I mean, that we spend more time there than we do at home. So when you stop that career, you lose those social networks, you lose the identity of who you were or are. So this is a way to find a new identity. Now, some people love their job and maybe they want to just do it a little less, and then they can have more time to, do community theater or hang glide naked, whatever it takes. But it's a major lifestyle change. And the earlier you start thinking about that and planning and having a purpose, finding that purpose, the better off you're going to be.
I find it daunting. I mean, again, I host the Retire Sooner podcast. So, I mean, but if I'm thinking about early retirement, just on the surface, without thinking about the habits of happy retirees, which again, I've written about, you've written about, and we probably understand as well as anybody. But when you're thinking about that much change all at once, so no more work, and I'm a guy that has always had at least 2 jobs at any given time, whether it's be a financial advisor and or doing something in the media. And they're super related because we're talking about, both roles talk about similar things, but it is juggling. So I've been fortunate to be able to have always at least 2 jobs or so. And that in itself is daunting. And even though I know that I need to have close to 4 core pursuits and be a member of a faith community and have a certain amount of social network, it still is a little overwhelming to think about actually doing it. You're trying to help your listeners understand all of that and remove the daunting nature of stopping work and still being a happy retiree.
Yeah, I really am. And I have to say, Wes, you are someone, you have a motor and you've been inspiring to me to work harder and to focus on what I want to get accomplished. In addition, you're a master of what it takes to retire, but I think you are someone who's going to have to work hard figuring out how to relax or figure out what else you want to do. So in a way, I want you to listen to the show, even though you're the master here. You're the guru, because I think someone who is such a hard worker and so willing to keep pushing and accomplishing things, sometimes it's hard for them to switch gears and think, now what?
Yeah, I agree. It can be a little daunting to really think about it. All right, how about you? Do you think you're on track? I know you're a brand new dad. Keaton's still not even one. How much are you thinking about being a happy retiree?
Yeah, I think if I tried to be a happy retiree right now, Keaton wouldn't have a big college fund by the time he got older. But I do think, and a lot of this is because of working with you. You've got me thinking about it. I am on track. I need to solidify. I'd say I'm a late bloomer on the financial aspects, but I now know what I'm supposed to do, and I'm trying to do it. I have a situation that I think a lot more people have than I realized. I had a severance package from a previous job, and I rolled it over into an IRA. And I thought that just meant now I have an IRA, now it's invested. It was just sitting in cash at the brokerage house doing nothing. As we know, cash doesn't keep up with inflation. So I've got that now invested where I wanted it. Marriage-wise, I married way up. So I'm on track there. Kid, I have one kid. He's 9 months, Keaton. So if I'm statistically, I'm supposed to have at least one more. You went one above. You did extra credit. You had 4.
Yeah, I think it's 2.5 is the average number of children for the happy retiree. I think it's 2.5. So you do have a little work to do.
I do. And I remember when you had your 4th, I thought I was, again, so clever because I was going to say, but Wes, you went over, and you'd already thought of that. But so, yeah, I'm around halfway there with children. core pursuits, I have a lot of interests. I'm not really very worried there. I have a lot of things I like to do. Writing, tennis. I'm starting to get into golf because I think I'm more mature now and I'm not going to get so angry. I have a little bit of my dad in me. One time I asked him where his sand wedge was, and he said it was in a tree back on the 6th hole. So I have.
Did your dad used to throw his clubs?
Yeah.
Have you ever thrown a golf club?
I've never thrown a golf club. I've thrown a tennis racket.
Ah, okay. I can see that. Actually, no, I can't see that. I can't see you getting that. You're so patient and kind.
Oof. Well, it's nice of you to say that. I have my moments. I've come a long way. I think I have a natural temper that don't like about myself, so I've been able to work on that.
You've tamed your temper.
I have, yeah.
Well, if you've never thrown a golf club, that's good. They're easy to throw. I've never thrown a golf club either, and I'm not gonna break that streak. I'm not gonna break that streak.
It's not worth it. I played golf recently, and I was really impressed with my peace of mind. I just, what do I care? I'm not trying to make the turn. I'm not trying to make the PGA. I'm just out there having fun, and again, drinking a beer. Sorry, it wasn't gin or white wine, but I was still happy. My health, I think, is in check. As I got a little bit older, in my 20s or maybe my early 30s, I ate fine, but I didn't really have to worry about it. Then I think I got a blood test in my mid 30s, and my doctor said, you better change this and this and this. It was kind of eye opening. So now I'm on track with that. Faith, I feel like I'm on check. I think we all have our own journey there. I feel pretty good about it. Friendships, I will say, and we did a little research on this, and you had a guest on your Retire Sooner podcast, an expert who was saying that males especially, and this
Dr. Michael Platt, the head of neuroscience and sociology at Wharton.
Yes.
Such a great guest. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I think about him all the time. He even related it to, I think, the monkey family, or maybe it was apes, but that males in that species have the same problem where as they get older, they get more solitary. And I feel that in myself, especially having a kid and working, you're just so focused. You forget to go spend time with your friends.
Yeah, I mean, you're protecting the family, right?
Yeah.
It's food and shelter for the family, and it's so easy to dismiss the frivolity of socialization.
Yeah, and I think that females, for some reason, understand that more, and maybe they need it more, or maybe they're just smarter and they realize that we all need it. I don't know, but they tend to keep their friends, stimulated and that sort of thing throughout. I'm a little worried that I'll be 65 and I'll realize I haven't done anything with any of my friends in 5 years.
Yeah, don't
so
do that.
Definitely keep my eye on that.
Ryan Doolittle, where do we find the podcast? Where do we find the Happiest Retirees podcast?
Wherever you listen to podcasts, you will find us. Just search for Happiest Retirees.
Ooh, I like it. Ryan Doolittle, host of Happiest Retirees podcast, a man unaptly named. Around these circles, we always say Doolittle seems to do the most. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Hey, it's been a real pleasure to be here, Wes. I always enjoy spending time with you. And I'll say that in high school, I won my class presidency by saying I won't do little, I'll do a lot. Hopefully the same applies here.